situation or the situation at the time?
The water level was really high, and actually what happened was the water level rose before the rains even got to this area, which means that we have a real problem we're dealing with. You know, we know that around June this is what tends to happen, but this is the worst we've seen in many years. And I think one of the main problems is that bottleneck around the Agbeboloshi market area. So when the water fills up the Odo, instead of moving towards the sea, it forms like a dam and it comes back. And what you see here is just devastating, We've had about, I think 2 deaths have been reported so far. There's a drain here that was being done. This is Odona garages we're in right now. The drain has not been completed. It's narrower than it should be for the volume of water. And we find ourselves here again. And there are lots of angry residents as you go around.
My colleague Kojo Yangson has also been on the ground to interact with some residents of the area.
Ernest, I'm in the westernmost corner of this community here in Odona, and people are walking around scarily as if this is normal. But none of what you are looking at is normal. This is the effect of water on the property and lives of people who are citizens of this country. Yet every time it rains, the water washes away parts of their life that they cannot replace. If you look behind me, you can see that these particular stores, these 2 shops, have brought out all of the damaged goods and property from their stores. As a result of the rain, they've lost all of this. And they are still trying to rebuild their lives. Now, I met 3 of them, Mr. Tete, Mr. Isiama, and Mr. Kojo, who agreed to tell us what this actually feels like every year when it rains. Mr. Isiama, thank you for speaking to us. Now, tell me, this problem, how long have you been experiencing flooding in this area?
I've been to Odona since from 1990. And by 2000, let's say 1995, there's a flood, but it's not so seriously. But it wasn't like how this time it is coming. Somewhere it's like Sodom and Gomorrah. Before 1995, there's some trees in the Odo River. That's let the water flow. There's a big land that let the water flow. But since from 1995 coming, they start to fill that place with sawdust and sand to occupy the place. So it has led the Odo River has become small to the sea. So if this problem is going to be solved, then we have to remove that Sodom and Gomorrah. We have to expand that place so that the water can flow into the sea. If not that, and because they've been managing this small gutter, it can't solve the problem. This small gutter can't solve the problem unless they make it widely to the sea before this problem can solve. Since from 1990, I've been experiencing Odona here. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Tete, tell me, last night when the rain fell, actually let's speak to Mr. Kojo. When the rain fell last night, how much damage did your shop and your home suffer?
I cannot be able to say this is the amount that I'm losing now until after everything, before I can say this is what I'm losing. If you can be able to see, if you can see the environment now, you see that we are panicking. In fact, we are suffering now, making the things to be all right. But as of now, I cannot be able to tell you this is the amount that I'm losing. But my own contribution about the solution of this event, you see, since 1990, as my brother said here, 2015, 2010 is what, if you look at the counter, you see the last counter, this is where the water end. All the goods get spoiled. 2015, which also the 4th counter. And this one again. But my own contribution, and also to say that this is the solution of this matter will be, you see the lagoon is choked. The solution is that if government can be able to, that's the only thing that we do in a year, to open that place like harbor, the way they build harbor, where the ship bat. If they can be able to open it and build it, then the deepness will be like one pole of electricity. Then they will channel the water there, open the sea, so that before that place full up, before that place will full up, then all this problem will solve. That is the only solution for me to what I understand. What they can do and we can be free. Apart from that, all these gutters you can not be free.
Now, I can sense the frustration in the community, Ernest, because this is a story that has been told over and over and over and over again. In fact, most people who live here do not believe that this problem can be solved. Let me illustrate. Mr. Tete, are you not fed up?
I'm very fed up because what is happening for Donna here, we don't know. It's a very long time. Even we don't know what to do now. Because all the gutters around us is not moving. Even they are not moving inside. They are not doing anything to help us here. But we are just here. So now we are just fed up. If somebody will see somebody here, but we don't know how to welcome the person. All the big men are running away from us because of the rain. If the rainy season, then nowadays is very worse. So if they can help us, fine. If they cannot help us, we don't know what to do now. That's what we can say now.
So what we have is a community that has actually given up on seeing a solution in their lifetimes. Even though they have great suggestions of how to fix it, they don't actually believe that anybody cares enough to make it happen. Ernest.
Let's continue to connect with what's actually happening in Accra today, and Maxwell Agbagba is joining us live. Maxwell, if you can hear me, where are you now, and paint the picture for us?
Well, we are around the Graphic Road where we have some chain of businesses. If you come here around the Graphic Road, you see a lot of car dealership lined on the stretch of the road here. If you come here, a lot of the workers here today are not really working. Many of them are trying to salvage anything that they can find when they reported to work today. A lot of water pumps are also quite busy here pumping out water. What we saw when we got to the Toyota car dealership, we realized that some of the cars, the Toyota car dealership itself, really the presence quite flooded, but it did not, enter the shops there, so the cars there are safe. One of the businesses that we saw right on the side of the road also, it was quite flooded. We were told that it was operated at 50%, capacity. So that business was actually flooded. Here, if you come to the Rafi Aluminium Company Limited, we can show you what is happening right now. You can see some NADMO officials, trying to use a water pump to get the water out of this business here. They are trying to get the water in, out. Some of the workers were also inside cleaning, this place. And that is what we've seen here. If you walk about 200 meters away, you would see that many of the people here are quite busy trying to clean what the flood water actually left in its trail here at this place at the Graphic Road, Daniel.
We'll stay a bit longer with this story, and the head of the Center for Settlement Studies, Faculty of Built Environment, KNUST, Professor Divine Ahaji, says community engagement is the way forward in dealing with floods, which has become a global situation.
A sad story, and we can only wish our condolences to the family. And as you said, it has been a ritual affair, but what I want to point out is that we are getting to a situation where, as a country, we need to understand that flooding all over the world has become a global issue, and that whether we like it or not, we are moving into the stage where, in terms of flood philosophy, we have to learn to live with floods. And I think that is the direction where the concept of integrated flood risk management needs to be seriously considered. And I think this is where, as a country, we have not done much, and I hope that the discussion can bring a lot of issues from that perspective.
I'm wondering, when you say we have to learn to live with floods, we're learning to live with coronavirus already. We now have to learn to live with floods. How exactly?
Yeah, so what's happening is that if you look at the trend all over the world, so far as settlements are growing and we are having issues with infrastructure development, heavy paved areas, and all those issues. And once you have excessive rain and you have low-lying areas, the issue of flooding is going to occur. But all over the world, the trend has been how to manage the situation so that you try to reduce the fatalities. And as you look in the situation in terms of when it comes to flood management, we have got a structural approach and a non-structural approach. The structural approach is where you deal with engineering designs that we have always clamored for. And I just heard one gentleman talking about drains and government coming to build drains. But that alone does not solve the flooding situation, because when we say we want to live with flooding, we are now moving into the stage of community engagement and community participation in flooding.
Now, away from flooding, the national leadership of the MPP has asked members to respect the decision of the national executive on the June 20 primaries of the party. In the Ashanti region, the regional leadership of the MPP in the region say they are commencing arbitration in all 44 constituencies as tension mounts over disqualification of some parliamentary aspirants. 17 out of the 44 sitting MPs are to run unopposed in the impending MPP parliamentary primaries. Some disqualified aspirants are crying foul play. Regional Secretary Sampine attempts to give reasons for the disqualification of some aspirants.
Some were disqualified per Article 3 of the party's constitution, 3 and 4 of the party's constitution. That is checking of the responsibility as a party member, misconduct, certain misconduct. Others, you don't meet the criteria for the selection put out by the party's constitution. 3, there were other petitions that we received from persons within the society.
But again, Sam, you and I know that people have been there before, like Hilda Ado. She passed to contest before, now she's no more there. Antonio, so people saying, so with these people...
Thank you very much for this question. We don't look at what you did in the past. We have a committee in place. Even if they were not disqualified and they go for contest. There are others who lose, and as the president said, you have desperate losers. In all of these matters, we need to build bridges. So we have a committee looking at arbitration, reconciliation, and all that. We look at it, we invite them, we talk to them on matters, which is very important. But I also wish to advise Frank that if a decision is taken, we need not look at what we feel and tell our supporters that these are some of the matters that we do that people feel, oh, the person was qualified, therefore he's been given a raw deal, and that angers people. So please, we want to appeal to all those who are affected in one way or the other. Let us be truthful with our supporters. Let us tell them if there are other actions that we wish to make or take per the procedures of the party, let's follow that.
Let's stay with the Ashanti region issues, and a member of the MPP's national legal team, Gary Nimako, has been explaining why why the sitting MP, Francisco Oting-Mensah, is going unopposed.
I have been part of the process in Kwabri East, commencing from the vetting in Ashanti region all the way to the appeals committee, and then I didn't take part of the National Executive Committee. But basically, with the contestant of Francisco Oting, I think when he came to the committee, there were some overtures, and those overtures to the extent that basically the chairman in the region had a personal engagement with the supposed contestants, and they had their own discussions, and then along the line, he said we should give him time to go and reconsider as to whether he wants to withdraw from the race. So we should give him time. And I recollect very well that when he went, I didn't see him again. So the next thing I heard was that there was an appeal which was brought to the National Appeals Committee. One thing that we should all understand is that when it comes to parliamentary primaries, National Appeals, the NEC, National Executive Committee, they have the ultimate decision-making power to decide, to even vary whatever decision that has been taken by the National Appeals Committee, by the vetting committee, whatever body that has been set up. They can vary it. In the interest of the party. They can say, well, even though the vetting committee cleared person A or person B or person Z or person Y. There was an appeal lodged. The appeal overturned the decision of the vetting committee. But we, in our wisdom, in the interest of the party, we will not allow you to go. I mean, have the power to do that. Or, the bottom line is that I want to appeal for calm. I want calm to prevail.
Now, joining us via Zoom is Evans Nimako, the Director of Elections for the NPP. Mr. Nimako, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome, my brother.
So, with the primaries taking place on the 20th of June, how close are we to finding resolutions to some of the issues we've seen come up in some constituencies?
Well, thank you very much. I think I heard lawyer Gary Nimako.
Yeah.
And he spoke very well to the issues. Because the final decision-making body clothed with the powers to vary decisions is the National Executive Committee. And all prospective aspirants who procure forms, went through vetting, and even appear before the National Parliamentary Appeals Committee agreed to accept the final decision that will come out from the National Executive Committee. We therefore expect that such aspirants will speak to their followers for them to respect the decisions of the National Executive Committee. It is clear in our Constitution that if you look at Article 3 that talks of duties of members, the 5, it says that all party members must abide by and publicly uphold the decisions of the party. Yes, you intended to go through the process and be part of the primaries, but the decision of the National Executive Committee, which is final, says at the moment that you are unable to contest. We therefore expect that as the aspirants appended their signatures to, that the undertaking they've signed in the rules of engagement binds them to the final decision taken by the National Executive Committee. That notwithstanding, the party has put in place the National Conflict Resolution Committee, chaired by our Chief of Staff, Madam Frema Osei-Opare. Anybody who feels aggrieved by the decision of NEC has the right to present their grievances for redress.
So Mr. Nimako, do I get the impression from what you're saying that if I go to court, I'm eligible to be suspended from the party?
Please come again.
Do I get the impression that because of this undertaking the members, the candidates have signed, if they are to go to court to seek redress, they can be suspended?
Per the party's constitution and rules of engagement, members are expected to exhaust the internal grievance procedure before they can resort to law court. It will be very difficult for me to sit here to accept at this stage that a prospective aspirant would jump to court against the decision taken by the National Executive Committee.
Right.
Yes, when a decision comes out, it may not be comfortable, but in the interest of the party, it is expected that such senior party members who were bold to have bought nomination forms, paid all the necessary fees, will also respect the decision that yes, it's not everybody who can be allowed to participate in these primaries, and it's not everybody who can have the opportunity of being sponsored by the party.
Evans Nimako, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on Joy News Today. Now, the Electoral Commission has urged the Supreme Court to back its decision to exclude the current voter's ID card as proof of identification for prospective voters. This is contained in its June 8 response to the Apex Court following a petition by the opposition NDC. The EC argues the existing voter's ID card was acquired by some Ghanaians in a manner that breached various laws. Now, the Supreme Court on June 4 gave the EC up until June 8 to justify its stance. The credibility of Ghana's voter register was a thorny issue prior to the 2016 election. Now, the then opposition alleged the register was bloated, insisting it cannot be a credible document showing Ghanaians voting age. Now, the Supreme Court in the case of Abu Ramadan and another the Electoral Commission in 2016 held that it was wrong for persons to use their national health insurance cards to get onto the electoral roll. On the line is lead court correspondent Joseph Akable as we do an in-house analysis on the 31-page response to the Supreme Court. But before we go to Joseph Akable, let's speak with lawyer Martin Kpebu, a private legal practitioner, for him to explain to us some of the procedure associated with this. Now, lawyer Kpebu, for those who may not be aware, what's the usual procedure up until this point? Why has the Supreme Court asked the EC to present this response?
Okay, so Daniel, it's the case that when a party files a writ in the Supreme Court for constitutional interpretation, the defendant is allowed to respond so that there is a, let me leave out the technical term. So the defendant is allowed to also file its response. When the response is filed, that's to say they present it to the registry of the court, and then there are sufficient copies for the plaintiff who started the case to be served, and also sufficient copies for all the judges, okay, usually 12 copies and beyond. Now, after that, the parties are encouraged to sit together to narrow down the issue. So in law, when we say issue, it specifically means what is it they are disagreeing about. So when you file, like Joseph is about to tell you, 31 pages of submissions, all the 31 pages are not issues. Most of it will be law and submissions that one party is using to advance its case. But currently, like this Supreme Court case, as far as I'm aware, I'm aware of two issues that the NDC is saying the EC should not compile a new voters register, and then two, the EC should not exclude the old voters ID card from the new registration. So these are the two issues I'm aware of. That's reading the proceedings in the media. Okay, if there are any, I cannot speak to that. So when they settle the issue, then a date is fixed for them to appear before the court. Of course, and before they appear, the Chief Justice will empanel. The Chief Justice will empanel, that select the judges who sit on the case. In this case, I think there are 7, but you know the Supreme Court has more than 13 judges. Right. So the Chief Justice selects, and the Chief Justice had already done that. So when they start on the 4th of June, that was the selected few who sat on the case. Now, as part of the procedure, even though both parties have filed what they want to file, there's also room for the court to ask the parties to further address them on some issues, which, let's say, maybe the parties did not address well, or the parties did not address their minds to. So the Supreme Court can say, okay, we consider X, Y, Z to be important, so both of you don't see so. So kindly address us on X, Y, Z. Okay, notwithstanding that the parties didn't place much weight on that. So the directive to the EC to justify its stance is within the rules.
Okay.
The court was acting within the rules of asking the parties to address its mind to something that they said, and provide more meat, more flesh to it, so that it will aid the court. So now that the EC has succeeded in filing to meet the court request, it means that on the 11th, then in all likelihood, the court will come to a decision. The court will deliver its opinion on the matter.
Right, and that will be binding on the Electoral Commission regarding the registration that's about to take place, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Will the Electoral Commission have the opportunity to seek redress if this is, if this does not go their way?
Usually for constitutional matters, we don't do review. But no, actually, some we do. We do. What's the slip? Yes, they can ask for a review of the decision, okay, within 30 days of the decision. Yes, I remember the Uyome matter when Amidu went the first round and he won but didn't get an order for the refund of the money. He went on review, and on the review, the Supreme Court said yes. So it can be done. And even in Abu Ramadan, I think, yes, there were some of they went back for review here and there. Yeah.
Lawyer Martin Pepe, thank you so much for the education this afternoon. Now we move from the law and elections, and the Narcotics Control Board has begun investigations into how a parcel of whitish substance suspected to be cocaine went missing in a joint operation with the Customs and Preventive Service. Now, a joint security operation near Aplao border has led to the interception of 42 kilograms of substances believed to be cocaine, heroin, and other banned items. Head of Communications, Media Relations and Protocol at NACOB narrates to Joy News circumstances leading to the escape of the suspect and the parcel of cocaine.
The person is on the run because our person gave a chase to him. He abandoned the vehicle and he ran away. And when Customs took custody of the vehicle, they brought it to the area. And then, even as we're talking to you, because of these delays from Friday to now, we're learning that one of the packages that is suspected to be whitish substance that is suspected to be cocaine is missing. And it's all because of these delays that took place. If the items, together with the vehicle and the content, had been moved straight to the Narcotics Control Board, those items could have been protected well. And also, investigations could have started right away. Even as we're talking to you, we don't know where investigations is going.
It's still live on Joy News today with me, Daniel Daze. Coming up in business, Chamber of Mines concerned that high cost of exploration could make Ghana lose its status as a #1 gold producing country in Africa. More on that when Daryl joins us after this.
Hey, Charlie, what number? The malaria really knocked you down, eh? Charlie, no joke. Fever, headache, vomiting, loss of appetite. I couldn't even eat my usual fufu. You and your fufu. But I hope you got tested before the malaria treatment. Yes, I did. And thanks to Malatu, I kicked out malaria one time.
When malaria strikes, take Malatu, containing Artemether and Lumefantrine. Comes in tablets and suspension for effective treatment of malaria.
Great to have you back. Thank you. No problem.
Malatu is suitable for adults and children. Manufactured and distributed by NS Chemist Limited. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Take a tour through Ghana's fastest growing online portal, www.adumonline.com, for local and international news, business, entertainment, politics, lifestyle, sports, and more. Watch the most intriguing YouTube videos on demand and live streaming of Adum TV, Ghana's #1 television station. Listen to live radio and podcast of all your favorite Adum FM programs, no matter your location and time. AdumOnline.com is an audio, photos, and video focused website. We break the news as and when it happens. AdumOnline.com is on web and app, making it easy to visit via phone, tablet, and desktop. AdumOnline.com, Ghana's most comprehensive news portal.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Ghana may be losing its place as the #1 gold producing country in Africa soon if steps are not taken to address the challenges in the mining industry. The Ghana Chamber of Mines in its 93rd annual report reveals that the high cost of exploration, especially taxes on inputs for mining firms, is becoming a major challenge. Despite the increasing profit for the industry in 2019, President of the Chamber, Suleiman Okoni, believes Ghana may lose out if government doesn't intervene to address the situation.
We seem to be lagging a little bit on exploration if you compare ourselves with some countries within the sub-region, particularly Burkina Faso. And this is in our report. It shows that although we are #1 when it comes to attraction of investment into exploration, Burkina Faso, for example, is miles ahead of us. And that's where the concern is, that if you don't attract investment into exploration, yes, you may be #1 today, but down the road, other countries would actually surpass it because they have invested in exploration. They'll be able to delineate and tease out a lot more ore bodies to mine in the future, and that could catapult them to be #1 ahead of you.
But why are we not investing in exploration? What's happening here?
I think there are lots of niggling issues around exploration. One key one has to do with cost of exploration. And we continue to engage with government. For example, exploration is so expensive, so risky, because as the name says, you are now exploring. You don't have any revenue yet. So you bring your investment, and your expectation is that practically everything of that investment will go into actual exploration work. Unfortunately, we have a situation where for exploration companies, some part of your investment goes into taxes, even before you make your commercial find to actually mine. So that is a major issue. We continue to advocate for the waiver of VAT on exploration inputs, especially when it comes to assaying and drilling services. We have been championing this for a number of years now. And expectation is that very soon this will be considered favorably to make Ghana quite attractive for investment in exploration. I think it's critical. As we have seen, that the mining industry is not just one of the sectors of the economy. When everything appears to be shutting down, this is where you see the mining industry rise to the occasion.
Meanwhile, the mining industry is committing some $2 million to support testing facilities in the country as their contribution to the fight against COVID-19.
When we had COVID, as a responsible sector, you cannot be aloof to how your host country is adversely affected. So we decided that we'll jump in and help. So we contributed, our member companies contributed an amount of $2 million, which we thought should really go towards supporting the key, testing facilities, i.e. Noguchi, KCCR, and then the research, facility in Korle Bu. So that was one of the key decisions we took. Over and above that, we thought we should bring in some PPEs to the frontline health staff through the Ministry of Health, as well as some ventilators. And because most of these items are not available locally, we had to import using some local vendors, and a large part of these items have come, and we have since donated them physically to these institutions. Over and above that, our member companies continue to support the host communities, the health facilities, and the health authorities within the various districts with various inputs.
And while speak of donations towards fighting COVID-19, Intravenous Infusion Limited has donated 1 million liters of intravenous fluids to the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research. Here's Samuel Apinting, who is director of Intravenous Infusion.
As soon as we heard that there was some emergency need for some IV fluids to help in the fight, to help with taking samples and analyzing, we thought, look, we were the first to be established in this whole sub-region as an IV fluid plant from 1969. And then we started manufacturing in 1973. We will demonstrate our preparedness to sacrifice, not just for ourselves, but for the whole of humanity and for the whole, sub-regional concerns. So we thought we should find out how much they needed. They said they'll need about 176,000 liters between now and August. We said, you know what, we give you 1 million liters. That should take you probably to the end of the year, depending on how things go. But we will always be available to help support even further.
There's more business news coming up at 1 o'clock. Up next, sports. This Wednesday on the Joy Business Van, from fashion retailing to wholesale fashion distribution, we are at Linax Collections, a chain of fashion stores in Accra owned by Linda Kwesi-Kote.
I used to be a journalist. I was working for the Chronicle newspaper. Then after a while, I started selling from the booth of my car. I would initially sell for friends. I'll come and pick them in town from aunties, friends, and other people, and I'll resell it to friends, people, family, and all of that. So gradually it was growing.
From the booth of her car to multiple stores, we hear the growth story of Linax Collections and how the COVID-19 pandemic could be changing the future of the business.
We've put a team of young men and women together who are sewing locally for us to feed the market. It's the same quality, the same designs, the same finishing.
Voices of the crisis. Linax Collections on the Joy Business Van, on TV, radio, online and on ground. It is powered by Joy Business and supported by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Well, thanks for staying with us here on Joy News today. It's time for sport, and we take you into our first story. Now, the Italian Serie A is set to resume on the 20th of this month. Ahead of that, all clubs have started team contact training. Our Ghanaian midfielder, Emmanuel Ajimambedu, is with Hellas Verona, and for him, training has been challenging.
It's been very difficult. After 2.5 months at home with this hot weather, it's very difficult for us. But this is our job. This is how the situation has come into. We don't have any options than to abide with it and just keep ourselves and be ready for the next 13 games left. Seriously, we need to be very, very careful because obviously there will be a lot of injuries after 2.5 months, which footballers, we are not used to that kind of lifestyle. And how the situation is it looks like we've been playing every 3 days and it will be very difficult then. So we just need to take good care of ourselves, train well right now so that at the game times we won't have too much problems, and it will be very difficult, John. I must tell you, 3 games with the hot weather, with 13 games you need to play in 1.5 months, it will be very, very difficult. But
well, let's talk about the captaincy at the Black Stars level. Now, it's a subject that keeps coming up, especially in recent weeks. Now, a recent revelation by former Black Stars player Tony Yeboah that Tony Baffour did not deserve to lead the team to the 1992 AFCON final, and runs by current Black Stars general captain Asamoah Gyan when he was stripped of the armband, highlight the issues surrounding the Black Stars captaincy. Now, Ace broadcaster Carl Tofor believes that we are our worst enemies when it comes to the captaincy issue.
I was extremely surprised at the nature in which the announcement came out at the time that Andre was to take over from. Considering the fact that the one who did it was, quotation marks, a victim 20, 30 years or whatever it was, it bamboozled me. it blew my mind. And I'm asking myself, so where did this come from? Have we gone up?
99.7 FM.
Maybe what we need to do is, first and foremost, if we're going to say the prerogative is the coaches, and it should be, in my estimation, but it's not the law, then we need to have PR people to help couch this thing in such a way. And probably that. Listen, if Kwesi had done this, the tournament was in June, like a year earlier, I don't think there would have been that halabaloo and all those. But the timing became a big matter. And so, in many ways, we are our own worst enemies. And so, if tomorrow Charles Akono decides that I am taking Nathaniel Attoh as the captain, that is Charles' prerogative. Respect it and be professional about it. Respect it. Note that the captain must not necessarily be the best player. Some people say the captains should be inspirational. Some captains are quiet, but their performances are the inspiration. So you don't necessarily need to be loud on the pitch of play.
Well, that's it for sport for now, but there's more at 2 p.m. when I bring you sports today. And of course, it continues here, and we'll bring you international news here on Joy News Today. My name is Nathaniel Attoh, and I have love for sport. Celebrating 25 years of joy.
To our audience, the chiefs and people of Ghana,
we say Baraka.
Via Zoom is a virologist at cases.
The need for news has never been greater. People are constantly tuning in to the broadcasts and scrolling for coronavirus updates.
Ghana records 5,408 COVID-19 cases.
But news outlets are grappling with a cash crunch, and the industry is adapting quickly.
We've had to cut down on the numbers.
You need to cut down even on production.
The media, a virus, and survival.
About a third of the revenues are not coming in.
For 1 month, the paper was off the stunts.
The media, a virus, and survival.
The harsh impact of the coronavirus.
A Joy News documentary by Araba Kumsin examines how the news industry in Ghana is surviving this devastating pandemic. The media, a virus, and survival on the Joy News channel.
Now in world news, we start in Tanzania, where President John Magufuli has declared the country coronavirus-free thanks to prayers by citizens. The coronavirus disease has been eliminated thanks to God, Mr. Magufuli told worshippers in a church in the capital, Dodoma. The World Health Organization, WHO, has expressed concern over the government's strategy on COVID-19. The government has stopped publishing data on the number of coronavirus cases in the country. On 29th April, the last day official data was released, there were 509 cases with 21 deaths in Tanzania. However, Mr. Magufuli said last week that only 4 patients were receiving treatment in the largest city, Dar es Salaam. Last month, Tanzania's government dismissed a U.S. embassy warning that hospitals in Dar es Salaam were overwhelmed and that the chances of contracting the virus were extremely high. And New Zealand has lifted almost all of its coronavirus restrictions, moving the country to level 1, the lowest of the 4-tier alert system. Under new rules, social distancing is not required and there are no limits on public gatherings, but borders remain closed to foreigners. New Zealand has reported no new COVID-19 cases for more than 2 weeks. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern told reporters she did a little dance when she was told the country no longer had any active virus cases. Looking forward to the day we can be dancing here in Ghana and elsewhere across the world. But that's next in Showbiz with Becky.
Waste to maggots. Maggot as feed for livestock, fish and poultry. A circular economy approach to fighting climate change.
We started in 2018. We have been able to mop close to between 20 to 25 tons of waste from these abattoirs, and we'll be able to recycle that to produce this maggot feed.
The story of Need Eco Feed on Climate Focus.
Good afternoon, welcome to Showbiz here on Joy News today. Now, celebrated music producer Zap Mallet has labeled his decision to work as a sound engineer in Ghana his biggest regret in life. He said the revenue flow for him as a sound engineer has always been a problem. Speaking on Showbiz A to Z on Joy FM, he said his colleagues, sound engineers in other places, are benefiting from both their past and current works.
Few regrets.
What are some of those regrets?
The regrets are that I'm in the right profession, I'm in the right vocation, but in the wrong location. Let me give you an example. You see the guy who wrote the Champions League anthem? He doesn't do any job again apart from the Champions League. Well, it's just coronavirus that has affected things. But you can imagine every performance of that song.
Every year.
Every performance of that song at the stadium in TV stations gives him something. But you see, over here in Ghana, it's a different situation. You can do everything, but at the end of the day, you get nothing for it. Ghana's problem is that collection has been a problem. I used to be on the board, like I said. I was on the board for 2 years, served with under Kujuentri for 2 years, and I realized that collection has been a problem for Ghana. Collection from radio stations, from TV stations, from users actually has been a problem. If they could align that up, or they could work that out, it will help.
Away from Zap Mallet, for more than 2 decades, they have lifted the nation with their worship. They have won souls and blessed many with their ministry. What is curious, however, is how they have managed to stay together for all these years. The evergreen Table Sisters on Spotlight today.
Handkerchiefs, dancing shoes, and a hat of gratitude. Time to take you to church with the evergreen music duo Tego Sisters.
And come on, Titi, and come on, say,
Since 1983, the twin sisters have been lifting praise in ways many Ghanaians continue to resonate with. Some of their popular songs, Ye Din Kunim, Ye Diko, Ye Besen Dibium, Habibiara Mano, Makuma Atomiyem, have led people to cry, uplifted many, and offered others hope. But for over 2 decades, they have remained together. How have they held on all these years?
It is grace. And it's one. And two, it's not easy. But togetherness, I believe, if I love her and she loves me, by all means, we will make headway. Small ages. It's normal. You know? Yeah. There'll be a small ages. But at the end of the day, we are twins. Yeah. Sometimes we fight. But then, of course, you know. So, I mean, after doing that, we are easy.
The duo says even though they have been hit hard by COVID-19, they are hopeful everything will bounce back to normalcy again so they can celebrate their 30th anniversary in ministry.
We've been trying to cope because it's something that you can't see it and you don't know how to fight it. So we're obeying the instruction of the president. So I believe we have done a lot to cope with it. So, but God has been so good. It takes God's grace before anything. It takes God's grace.
For all you emerging gospel artists, and in fact, all other artists, if you need some tips on how to grow in the industry and remain relevant and timeless, listen to Lydia Dede Yoseni Tego and Elizabeth Kokwi Tego.
You have to respect the elderly and then even the youngest. And when you do that, God blesses you.
Today on Spotlight, we say Ayiko to the adorable twins for their immense contribution to the gospel music industry. 30 years is an enviable milestone. Congratulations!
He's my refuge. Oh no, no, Jimmy free, my town full say. He delivers me from the evil ones. My here was a mizumi firewa. Jimmy free, my town full sim. Jonya Mishirana, Wishirano. Onipan to me say, said I'm streaming so shabana. Bakuma ring to she. Say, Onyami warrior feya.
Wow.
Tego sisters. I know.
Okay, we're gonna sing you out of this bulletin. My name is Daniel Dazi. This has been Joy News today. Catch all the action on myjoyonline.com. That's where you can get the latest news. Up next is the marketplace. So Becky, 1, 2.
Bye.
Today was brought to you by
Number 10 liver salt from Ernest Chemists, because everyone needs a chemist.
This Wednesday on the Joy Business Van, from fashion retailing to wholesale fashion distribution, we had Linax Collections, a chain of fashion stores in Accra owned by Linda Kwesi-Kote.
I used to be a chain analyst. Then after a while, I started selling from the booth of my car. I would initially sell for friends. I'll come and pick them in town from aunties, friends, and other people, and I'll resell it to friends, people, family, and all of that. So gradually it was growing.
From the booth of her car to multiple stores, we hear the growth story of Linax Collections and how the COVID-19 pandemic could be changing the future of the business.
So we've put a team of young men and women together who are sewing locally for us to feed the market. It's the same quality, the same designs, the same finishing.
Voices of the crisis. Linax Collections on the Joy Business Van, on TV, radio, online and on ground. It is powered by Joy Business and supported by EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Dance to Terror, your dance channel. Today on Dance to Terror, we bring you Dance Unlimited, featuring some of the best acts you can find in this country and beyond.
Escupsa e ribs.
Stay, don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is your girl, Abba.
My name is Robert.
And right now you're dancing with Dance Terra TV. I love you guys so much. Tiptoe. Mwah.
Brace yourself for 100% world-class dance entertainment. From dance videos to dance moves.
So for you out there, you need this, man.
Dance aerobics to Dancing with the Stars.
My name is Nikki Samona.
It's your boy Article 1, and I accept
this dance challenge.
Dance challenge.
Get inspired weekly.
I'm right here on Dancepiration.
Dancepiration. From the church to the streets. From the concerts to interviews. From social dancing to dance sports.